And accountability is the hardest one for teams to embrace. You know, in working with teams over the years, we found that this is by far the most difficult part of forming a team, is getting people on a team to hold one another accountable for what they've agreed to. Now notice what I said there, to hold one another accountable. I didn't say for the leader to hold people accountable. You see, the leader is not the primary source of accountability on a team. The leader is the ultimate source, but the primary, the most frequent source of accountability on a team needs to be teammates, peers. Peer pressure on a team is the best thing we've got going. That's where accountability lives. Somebody turning to one of their teammates and saying, hey, we committed to that. I thought you were going to do that. It doesn't look like you're living up to that. That's a beautiful thing. And you see whether it's military or fire department or doctors in the emergency room, people don't go to their boss and tell on somebody. They confront one another directly because they know that's the way to get things done. And the very best teams very, very infrequently have to go to the leader and tell them about something. That just drags us into politics and delay. Great teams turn to one another and say, hey, listen, we trust each other. We've engaged in conflict. We committed to that. It would only make sense that I would confront you directly and say, what's going on? That is the most beautiful thing you can see on a team, is people holding each other accountable. Now, what's ironic about this is the only way to create peer-to-peer accountability is if the leader demonstrates that he or she is willing to hold people accountable. See, it's ironic. The more that a leader is willing to do it, the less likely that he or she is going to have to. But if a leader doesn't like to do it, and that's me, I do not like to do this, I'm not good at this, this is my big issue as a leader. If the leader does not like to hold the team members accountable, then people are going to go to them and make them do it, because they're going to think, why should I do your dirty work if you're going to let them off the hook? Accountability is one of those interesting things that it's so hard for me to do it, but I know it really works and how important it is. And I recently was reminded of that when I was working on a team, a project team with a guy, and he's become a friend of mine, and there's a number of us on this team, but he's new to this particular project. And so he's not been on board for very long, and we noticed he wasn't working with a sense of urgency and really driving the project forward, even though he's now in charge of it. So me and another colleague decided to have a meeting with him, and we sat him down in this conference room, and we just said, here's some of the things we noticed that you're doing that probably you need to do better. And we need you to push harder on this and to take ownership of this and be more detail-oriented and not be so passive about it. And it wasn't easy to tell him this. He's older than me, and he's a friend of mine. And 2 weeks later, his performance went through the roof. People were like, what is that guy doing? This is amazing. I mean, it just completely transformed his performance. And he came to us later and said, I'll tell you what, it was painful to hear what you said to me in that one meeting, but it gave me the clarity I needed to improve. I'm totally doing different work. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that somebody told me that, because in every other job I've had, nobody would say anything to me. They would just talk about it without me being there, and I'd find out about it 6 months later. And I realized that when I withhold feedback from somebody and I don't hold them accountable to the behaviors and the performance they have, I'm not giving them a chance to improve. And when that person really wants to do a good job, that's the worst disservice I could do for them. So I think for those of you, if you're like me, that don't like to hold people accountable, remember that you're doing them a favor. And it's really an act of love. And I think that's something that can really help any team, is to embrace that kind of accountability.